Dune Awakening has just launched, and as people pile into Arrakis, they're beset with tons of items to pilfer and sift through. With these items come your equipment, the weapons and armor that you use to forge your claim in the sands of Dune. But there are a lot of different armors in the game, some light, some heavy, and some neither. So which one is the best? Well, in this video today, we're going to drill down on the different armor types to help you decide which is the best one for your playstyle. Because truly there is no best quote-unquote armor, really. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge in my videos. So with that being said, let's break this down on a high level. You have three types of armor: light, heavy, and your still suit. Light armor has among the lower armor classes, but gives you higher blade damage mitigation, as well as a reduction in the cost to dodge. So if you're playing a blade master or any character in melee predominantly, lean more on light armor for the dash stamina reduction and blade damage mitigation, since your shield will help with the range damage. Heavy armor has higher armor class, less blade mitigation, but affords you a number of other bonuses towards every other damage type. This is going to be key for anyone staying at range, since your shield shuts off when you use a ranged weapon, so the armor class will mitigate ranged damage coming your way. Lastly, your still suit is not directly armor, but it has catch pockets which allow you to hydrate yourself, and it gives you great sun exposure protection. The armor on it is the lowest of all armor types, unless you get armored still suits, which are special schematics. More on that later. My ultimate opinion is to learn the game with whatever armor you feel suits your playstyle. You won't be penalized for using any of the three in any major way. But eventually, once you learn the systems and how to play, I use a still suit with light armor head, gloves, and boots. This is because I spend most of my time in melee and I like the sun exposure catch pockets of the still suits. It's a nice balance in between, and I'm using an armored still suit. So one final note here, shields are a pretty key thing to understand the dynamics of light armor usage, because your shield will mitigate the leftover damage after your armor has reduced it via AC or mitigation values. And I'll cover that in the shield section of this video. But that said, too long didn't watch this entire video. There's more nuance which we'll go into, but if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. You can jump ahead to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters from the timeline and the description. And if you are heading out and you found the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those helps me out in a huge way. Lastly, you can find links below to my other Dune videos, as well as my Twitch, where I will be doing giveaways all launch week of the game. But let's get started on what is the best armor to conquer Dune Awakening. Loading into the game, let's talk about our light armor. And this is the first set of armor you're going to really be getting into, is this one right here, the scavenger rags. I'm trying to kind of make this as spoiler free as possible. It's not too fun to like watch one of these videos and some guy's just showing you some sort of like jacked Chad and you're like, okay, cool, I can't compare. So we're going to take a look at light armor first, because there's two different types of armor, like we've said before: light and, well, scout. Light and heavy. Those are our two armor types. You start off with this one. That's your light armor. So if we take a look at this in the research tab, we're going to take a look and it's going to show us the components, works with general fabricator, garment fabricator. Just simply press the Alt button, left Alt, and you'll be able to see the stats. This works for any item. So if you were to go all the way down, I guess, you know, this video might be kind of misleading. Technically, the very best armor would be this one, right? But it's not really. It's just the same thing, right? It's its own thing. It's going to follow the same rules as you jump from product to product or from material to material. So taking a look at this scout jacket, we're going to see it has an armor value of 56, dash stamina cost of -6, and then a blade mitigation of 12%. It also has some very minor heat protection, so there is that to be considered. But we're going to see this too on the pants. It has a 6% plus to 4% here from our dash. So that is going to be a -10% to the stash stamina cost. Our gloves are going to be 3. So that's now the 13. To 4 is 17. And lastly, the boots are 3. So across all pieces here, you're going to see that this is -20% to dash stamina cost. Just real quick, just so we know, here's what a dash is. Just that Alt button, this right here. That is your dash. So it makes it so that you can quickly do any dashes in subsequent fashion, right? So you can just kind of leverage those as best you can. We also get a blade mitigation of 12, 8, 26, 34, and then another 6 to 40. So 40% blade mitigation. That is what we get from light armor. Heat protection is kind of negligible here. but we also get an armor value of 28. So if we were to compare this, taking a look at the armor value, let's just look at the armor value for the chest piece, the scout jacket. It's 56 armor value for the light armor piece. For the heavy armor piece, it is 100. So you can see that there is clearly a big difference in the armor. And if I were to look at the still suit that's comparable at that range, it's 28. So you see that light armor, even though it's called light, it does kind of sit categorically. I'm sorry, this iron product. We'll go over to here. This is 43. So you see light armor categorically is light, but still suits sit lower than light. So light is kind of like a medium armor if you want to think of it across all three types of the armor. Now, one point I do want to make here is with light armor, you're going to use this the most when it comes to being a sword master, anyone who's going to be up close and personal using that blade combat. Because remember how the shield works, which is, I'm going to go into the next section. I feel like it's its own section, or worthy of its own section. When we take a look at light armor, it's got these damage mitigation values. I'm going to jump all the way to the bottom here, and we're going to take a look at this one. I'm just going to take a look at that. Do you see any difference in the dash stamina cost and the blade mitigation? It's 6% here and 12% at the highest at Plastinium. It's the same. So the only thing that gets better over time is the armor value for all pieces of armor in the game. The dash stamina cost, the blade mitigation is always going to be the same for every single piece of light armor. So this allows you to kind of calculate how you're going to do things and how you want things to work for the perpetuity of the character. Maybe you want to adjust things to certain light and heavy pieces, mix and match, or do a still suit like I do. Whatever it is, it's there for you. Now, the biggest thing here is how you have to understand how armor value works in conjunction with your shield. So let's go into that so we can kind of close off light armor before jumping into heavy. So shields work in this game pretty much in a way to mitigate the amount of damage you're taking from ranged weapons. Now, when it comes to melee weapons, they will mitigate a little bit of damage, but really the big thing is in melee, the shield can be bypassed. Another thing when it comes to shields is poison damage will affect you because it's not a kinetic type of damage. You're breathing it in. So the dart that maybe would apply the poison damage from a sniper rifle round won't hurt you, but the poison will. So those are some things to consider when it comes to shields. Now, shields deal with, you see there says worm attraction intensity. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Don't stand on the sand with a shield active. I'll show you. Shield refresh time 0.6 and power drain percentage 110%. So what this is showing me that while having this active, if I would just press this button, it doesn't actively drain my power. What it's saying is as shots are hit into the shield, it will drain power because that's how the shield maintains itself. So if you were to be basically spray and prayed by a disruptor, it's going to knock the shield down very quickly in rapid succession. Or any of the heavy weapons, you've probably seen this on some of the units that have it's like a light machine gun. I can't think of the name of it, but they'll just completely eat your shield down if you stand in the fire. The big thing here is just to give you some damage mitigation against range damage and to help you with melee. The big thing is, and I don't really know the actual stats on how it works, like what the percentages is. You'll see that if you press character stats right here, you'll see armor and then armor mitigation, 27%. So I'm receiving 27% less damage from enemy hits. That value of armor mitigation is what then the shield has to deal with. And it's post all mitigation from what I understand, meaning armor mitigation is 27%. But we already talked about blade being 8 plus 12 into 20 plus 8 into 28 plus 6 into 34 plus 6 into 40% blade damage mitigation. So the way I've understood this is that it is going to be 67% less damage from blades because of my armor and that blade mitigation. So the shield doesn't have to deal with as much damage to mitigate from blades solely, but range weapons, it's only 27% because that is my armor mitigation value. And then that will then take a toll against the shield. So let's go and show some combat where I just sit there and take some shots and we can see how the shield reacts to those bits of damage. So ahead of us, we have a little small camp. And I'm going to let things just shoot at me with my shield active here. And I think we have a melee guy that's going to come my way too. So it'll be really good. So let's just let this person, oh, there's 2 melee guys, great, even better. So let's let them just hit me. You can see, as long as I'm not staggered, right, in that state, the shield's gonna deflect majority of that damage, especially at the point that I'm at, where it's a much better shield as per the damage these guys are gonna do. So when it comes to melee, this is clearly the best choice when you're going to play any kind of melee class. Now let me go show some ranged shots. But here we are, we have some range fire that's gonna come our way. Let her just kind of hit me. You'll see that that little tiny gauge underneath my health is starting to take hits, starting to kind of blip. Now with her weapon and again my shield, it's not going to be able to do much. Below this area, there's a guy who's going to spawn that has a heavy machine gun, and it will tank my shields. Tank as in like destroy them. But you can see like if she had a disruptor or anything that shoots rapidly, it has the capacity to break my shield open. So this is how the shield works. It uses that armor mitigation, but then it also uses additional mitigation like blade mitigation, and then has to defend that into the shield. It's not the pre-damage mitigated or the pre-mitigated damage value. So now you understand how shields work, and you can see as it blinks as it starts to get closer and closer. This gives you a better idea on how this actually plays into light armor for the character. Last thing to show off here is what happens if you're on the sand and you turn your shield on. You can see the worm is hot and horny for it. So I strongly don't recommend you to have your shield on. I don't even like what I've just done. I don't even like what I've just done. So don't play around on the sand with your shield. It's like our mothers always said. So that is how the shield affects you when you're on the sand. So now that you know how light armor works, you know how the shield corresponds to that. What is it about heavy armor? So one thing I didn't talk about in light armor is that it has one trait going for it too that I didn't highlight. It's that it has, oops, wrong one. It has heat protection, meaning that all of these pieces have a 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, and 0.2. So 0.2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it's a 1.0 heat protection. To put this into perspective, a Stillsuit, just the chest piece, has a 5.0 heat protection. It's not a massive amount, but it is something worth noting for the sake of just kind of continuity. Now, when we look at the heavy armor, we have a much different armor value situation. We get 0 heat protection, but the armor value is almost double what we had before. So the heavy jerkin, not to be confused with a gherkin, is 100 here versus this, which is 56. Just to kind of, again, show what the best one is like, we can see that this has got 450 versus, I think this was what, 250? 250. So that's almost, again, just about double. So you get a good sense of a much higher armor class. And we talked about how armor class is damage mitigation before actual mitigation from set damage sources. So heavy armor has a much higher damage mitigation for different damage sources. Light dart mitigation, heavy dart mitigation, concussive mitigation, those are the big things we're going to get here. So we have a 6 plus a 3 into 9 plus a 4 into 13 plus a 3 into 17 plus a 4 into 21. So we have roughly, is that 3.8? No, that's dash. So roughly 21% light and heavy dart mitigation and concussive mitigation. But there's 2 big things that weigh against you with heavy armor. You have now a massive increase to your dash stamina cost. So that is no fun for anyone. Taking a look at this, we have a 7.5 plus a 3.8. I think actually the rest are 3.8, but we'll take a look. This might be 5, so 3.8 plus 5 plus another 3.8 right here. And I'm doing this on a calculator live because, you know, that's the best way to make a video. And 5 again. So it's a 25% increase to your dash stamina cost, which is quite rough. Meaning I'm not even using any heavy armor, and I think I've got like 5 dashes with a Stillsuit and light armor combination. So you can see that that's quite a rough way against your dash, but you can in turn deal with far more damage from range, and you even still get that damage mitigation. But there's also another thing we're going to deal with. It's a little counterintuitive here. If you kind of think of this, if you think of, okay, look at the blade mitigation, that's not you're receiving 12% less blade damage, it's you have a penalty against blade damage mitigation. So that's a 12 into a 6 is 18, into an 8 is 26, into a 6 is 34, right? No, 32. Into an 8 is 40. So you take 40% more damage from blade weapons. So this is the trade-off. You're going to use heavy armor if you're a sniper, which sounds kind of counterintuitive to the way you would think about with snipers. You're like, oh, I want to be light armor and stealthy. Doesn't work like that in this game. Light armor is focused on melee combat and getting up close in that cookie jar. Heavy armor is focused on extreme damage mitigations from range, utilizing not your shield, but utilizing the actual armor mitigation that comes in from the armor value and all the individual damage mitigation factors. So those are big things to understand when it comes to heavy armor. This is going to be crucial if I'm playing as a mentat that's going to focus on using a sniper rifle, a trooper that's going to focus on using a scatter gun, well, and a disruptor. Those are kind of mid-range, right? But even the laser Vulcan here, or the rocket launcher. So that kind of gameplay favors those two classes a little bit more, versus light armor favors more the Blade Master and Bene Gesserit. I'm going to combine these two together, so light armor is the way I like to play. And one other thing here too is understanding that if you're going to be wearing heavy armor, you're probably going to be playing at ranged. So if I turn on my shield shuts off, right, when I go to shoot from ranged. Or if I decide to throw something, it will shut my shield off. So this reduces that ability to deal with damage from ranged. Now remember though, with heavy armor, we talked about how the shield plays in with the mitigated damage coming your way. If someone comes your way and attacks you with heavy armor on and they hit you with a blade, it's going to cut through your shield faster. It's going to shut your shield off even if you've got it. So the shield will afford you some little bits of mitigation here and there, but it's not a lot, because remember, those blades are going to be hitting you for 40% more damage. So that 40% more damage is going to go against your shield. That's how heavy armor works. Use it if you want to be a range class that's not going to be up close and personal and doesn't have to deal with blades, but you want all the mitigation of return fire against you as you're in cover, sniping, shooting, whatever it is. So lastly, we have the Stillsuits. And I spoke in error in the previous section. Light armor has a 1.0 total heat protection. It's not 5.0 on the armor here, it's 0.5. Each piece of the Stillsuit is 0.5, so you get basically double the heat protection of light armor. So it's a 2.0 across all 0.5s of these. And what Stillsuits are going to do are going to give us a small armor value, but also a catch pocket. And the catch pocket is something that you can use to drink your bodily fluids in the best way possible, and gives you just an additional form of hydration. You've probably already built a Stillsuit in the game. You already maybe know the lore of it. It's that little bar on the left here next to my hydration. It's barely filled up. I press F and it goes into my hydration. So it's a great little thing to have access to. And with the Stillsuit, we have another important feature I want to talk about. Stillsuits, of course, have the catch pocket, right? Well, the boots, the gloves, and the mask do not have catch pockets. It's only the chest. So feel free to mix and match things as you see fit. And it has very low armor. So it's the lowest armor of everything, but it still has its applications. Maybe you just want to use it to go harvesting. You want to just go use it to go grab some resources. You're not looking to do combat. Usually combat and harvesting don't always overlap unless you're going to places that, well, do have that place that overlaps. By and large, you could just do one or the other if you wished. And on top of it too, if you're building your base, use the Stillsuit. For the love of God, use the Stillsuit. Every time I build my base, I'm like, my character gets redlined because I'm dehydrated and I've just gotten lost in the zone of building this, you know, like you can really easily bake yourself alive if you don't do it with a Stillsuit. So I strongly recommend that. But how can you use a Stillsuit and still do combat? What is the armored Stillsuit that I talked about earlier? Let's now talk about schematics and armored Stillsuits. So you have the schematics, and if you don't know what these are basically purple items that you'll find, schematics that you'll find hidden in special chests throughout the game. They are broken apart by product, copper, iron, steel, so on and so forth, all the way down ad nauseum. And these schematics are located roughly in the zones that the corresponding product takes place. So you'd find copper down here, iron over here, steel over here in these two regions. And as you kind of progress through it, aluminum's over in here. So as you progress through, you'll be able to tap into better and better items. These schematics are the same thing as the base item. So for example, here's a leader Jean, but they have increased capacity. The base Leader-Jean has 1,000, I believe it is, so this has 1,500. Or this over here, this is a knife that will drink blood. So that's how schematics work. But how is this going to apply to our still suits? So let's look at the iron still suit real quick. Specifically this one. This has 43 armor, 0.5 heat protection, and 500 hot pocket size. I know what I just said. Clicking this, going back here, and then looking at that. This has 156 armor value. Catch pocket's not that much better, right? But if we were to compare this to 156, let me put this back on, let me put this back on. 156, so this is 56 and this is 37. That's more armor than the subsequent light armor corresponding pieces, right? So this is armored still suits, this Menel's garment. You wear that and you have the same amount of armor had you been wearing light armor in those locations. You do not get the mitigation bonus of it, but you now have the catch pockets and the heat protection. So that is what armored still suits are and how you find them. How you find them is really going to be up to the exploration portion of the game. You can Google where to find Menel still suit. There are some locations that are not necessarily guaranteed spawns, but they are highly, it's usually like RNG across the entire suit of a certain location. And I don't like to ruin that for people. You can, I'm sure there's tons of repositories online that you can get that by simply Googling it, but you can go and say like, okay, I want this entire suit right here. Well, all those pieces should spawn from one or two locations. It's just RNG which one does spawn. And I've heard that changes every week, and I'm not sure if that last part is just conjecture or true. So take that with a grain of salt, please. So those are your armored still suits, and they're there in every single section. This is the one right here. And as you go down, they're in each section. So you'll always be able to find it. You just will have to find it. But you can also find schematics in another way. And like I said, you can buy most of these schematics at the actual marketplace. That is, I guess you could call this just an auction house that you can get to in Arakeen. You just jump in here and you can find all of these schematics to buy. So as we talk about the armored still suit, there it is. It's pretty easy to find. I'm not going to ruin that for you, but like I said, you can find a lot of this stuff here at the market. You just come right over here to this one that says the Chome Exchange. The way I approach this game, because of the character I'm trying to make, because of the skills I'm focusing on between Bene Gesserit and eventually Swordmaster, I'm making a character that uses the still suit. That to me is the best in conjunction with light armor. This is going to give me a 4 plus 3 plus 3. So I have a 10% bonus to my dash stamina as far as not sucking it up as much. And my blade mitigation here is 6, 6, and 8. So I get a 20% blade mitigation on all those pieces. I feel like that plays very well to me playing in melee. And in addition to that too, my heat protection is 0.5. Remember how we talked about all 4 pieces of the still suit are going to give you 2.0 heat protection? Well, this is 0.5 plus 0.2, 2, and 2, right? So we're at 1 point, we're at 0.5, 0.7, 0.9, 1.1 heat protection. So we're a full 0.9 away, but we're still at least a little bit better than how we just been wearing straight up light armor. So we do get some good heat protection. I then get the catch catch pocket here. So for me, this is the best way to play because this falls into my play style. Mixing this with heavy armor would work just as well if I wanted to stay with ranged. If I wanted to stay from range 2, just going full heavy or going full light if I'm going back into melee, whatever it is, those things all work. But I wanted to give you an idea of how you can mix and match these pieces to make a little bit more sense for you, have a little bit more fun. And keep in mind too, with the customization portion of this, if you don't like the look of a specific helmet, as long as, I believe the rule is, as long as you've crafted it, you can swap into it. So you can't have just found it. So I crafted this, so now I can swap into that if I so wish. So if I'm having a bunch of light armor pieces and go, man, I just hate the look of this one. Well, I crafted this from the previous set. I'll stick with that. I don't know why you would, but you have the option to do so. And it's just dependent upon the classification of the armor between heavy, light, still suit, what have you. And all you need to do to get there, just to recap on that, you can either press customization by pressing U or press it right here. And you can edit what you have equipped or the generic values for all your things. So you can just jump through that as you see fit. So that is my best way to play with armor in the game. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Do you play with a still suit and a variation of armor? Do you strictly stick with armor and swap into the still suit when you want to do anything? Have you completely abandoned the still suit like I did for 4 hours, but then realized maybe I just put the still suit back on and deal with the fact that now I know how to dodge and I know how to parry better, so I'm okay not having all that mitigation on board. Whatever it is, let it be known in the comment section below. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.